In Game 3 of Elemental Energy of the Progression Series Season 2, Simo would rip a Pot of Greed off the top in a simplified game state, and as a result, would stabilize a potentially volatile scenario that was dead even and card advantage and knowledge to one where he suddenly had the overwhelming advantage. But this wouldn't be the first time a draw spell off the top has won somebody a game. In fact, we would see this repeated in history again.
Crucial, another engage coming down.
Wow, Pascal, Kihm, there it goes. Double engaging on Joshua's.
And again.
Let's go ahead and draw. Oh, and Mr. Green Man is smiling.
Yeah, there he is.
And again.
Pretty strong opening from James and into Pot of Greed.
Whoa!
Even stronger.
This is so good.
This is the story of Yu-Gi-Oh's most iconic spell card, Pot of Greed. Pot of Greed is a very simple card with just 3 words for its effect: draw 2 cards, and it is because of this simplicity that defines its power, and in my eyes, is a perfect representation of Yu-Gi-Oh's original core design philosophies regarding spell cards. Yu-Gi-Oh was built on the same card game design principles as many of its contemporaries: life totals, battling monsters, and harnessing magic. However, the design precedents for future cards would vary between the games. Magic the Gathering would go down the route of designing cards based on the game's 5 main colors, with each color sharing distinct strengths and weaknesses, further expanded upon into the tribes that populate said colors. However, Yu-Gi-Oh decided to go down a different route. Instead of, at least initially, focusing on archetypal design, Yu-Gi-Oh's 3 distinct schools of cards, monsters, spells, and traps, are all distinct from each other. Monsters served as the primary focus of dealing damage, traps served as interruptions, and spells filled the empty design space that the other 2 generally lacked, generating and dismantling advantage. We can see this school of spell design very clearly in Yu-Gi-Oh's early stages compared to spells now, but the general philosophy still stands. Cards like Regeki and Confiscation were designed to punish players for overcommitting to the board or holding onto power cards too long, dismantling their advantage. But Pot of Greed is as pure as you can get in regards to translating raw card advantage to a player, which is by letting them draw cards. Drawing cards in any card game is an extremely powerful mechanic. From Magic's Ancestral Recall to Hearthstone's Secret Passage, being able to refill your hand with new avenues of play and dig for potential answers to an opposing board is critical to a deck's success. This is what makes Pot of Greed so iconically powerful, from allowing Yugi to dig for the perfectly scripted answer to Kaiba's dragons in the anime, to a duelist at an event pulling a win out of thin air. The raw potential of finding 1 or even 2 best cards for any given scenario is what makes this card so especially deadly. Coupled with Yu-Gi-Oh's lack of resource system, the speed of the game, and the ever-growing importance of card advantage, the idea of the +1 or even just the +0 is more than enough to get players to squeeze every bit of card advantage out of their decks in the deck building process when it comes to putting in such cards. The pot's core ideology of generating card advantage would bleed into spell design as a whole, although card advantage has also attached itself to monsters within their effects as the game has evolved over the years. If you manage to do an empty search for spells that either draw or add cards, you'll find at least 750 unique cards, when compared to archetypal monster design, where just about 20 cards share the same effect, sometimes literally. It's always refreshing to see that no matter how many things about Yu-Gi-Oh change, spell design remains the same. Pot of Greed has even been referenced, not just by unoriginal comedians on Facebook and Twitter, but by the game itself, with just over a dozen cards in the game with a deviously faced pot based around generating card advantage, and ironically enough, solemn, restful faces focused around losing card advantage. Even when it comes to its contemporaries, such as with Avarice, Desires, and Extravagance, none can truly replicate the raw ease of use and power found within the original pot. Avarice shares its draw 2 and non-once per turn, but requires heavy graveyard setup. Pot of Desires requires you to banish 10 cards from the top of your deck, a payment not easily made twice, and is a hard once per turn, meaning that if its effect is negated and you have an additional copy in your hand, or worse, draw into one off of Desires, you'd have essentially paid for the world's most expensive +0.
Activate Pot of Desires, banish 10, draw 2. Fuck this game!
Extravagance locks the player even further, restricting the type of decks that can even run this card due to the wildly variable nature of its cost, has a hard once per turn, must be the first action you take during your main phase, and even locks you out of draw effects for the rest of the turn. Yet all three of these cards have seen heavy competitive play, both currently and historically. Just the ability to draw 2 cards, no matter what the cost, is enough to put a smile on her face, mirroring the pot's artwork whenever they resolve. Pot of Greed is, in a platonic sense, the perfect card for Yu-Gi-Oh! It's an example of how important card advantage is a great reference point for general spell card design, and it is without a doubt one of the sackiest cards any player could hope for off the top of the deck. Although the original may remain cemented onto the ban list for its raw power, its derivatives and future variations will always remind us of its eternal legacy as Yu-Gi-Oh's most iconic spell card. Hey everyone, Stevie here. Just want to say thank you guys so much for watching the video. It took a lot of work to write and especially get all of those little video effects just the way I like it. And especially huge thanks to Ristic Studies. He is an amazing Magic the Gathering content creator, and if you are more interested in seeing some of his style of content, which is very beautiful and very eloquently put, I have his channel linked in the description down below, as well as my favorite video from him being the Bolt video, which served as the main inspiration for this. Just overall really good content, real good guy. I highly recommend checking him out. And of course, if you are interested in seeing more of this sort of style of content in the Yu-Gi-Oh context, let me know in the comment section down below and what sort of topics you want to see me discuss, whether it be the history of archetypes, maybe more single card reviews such as this one, that sort of general sentiment. But again, like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more of this content, absolutely free. And special thanks especially to you guys for watching the video, anyone on stream who may be react-andying to this, and of course the Patreons who are on the left or right, or however I decide to edit this later on. And one more shout out for the patrons, of course. We've got Travis M. Takamiya, we've got Brave1_007, we've got Best BA Player Italy, and we've got Jason Fails. Again, if you want to check me out more often, feel free to subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Blunder, trying to get into some late night streaming. And again, thank you guys so much for being so supportive of me and liking the content. Really appreciate it, you guys. Thumbs up. Alright, take it easy, gamers.